What we're going to have a quick look at today is this Abloy. Now, it says Gecko on the front, G-E-C-O. I think that's a German utility company, but it is made by Abloy. The interesting thing is, you can see it's got a tooth on the outside here. So that's a profile plate that normally sits at the back of the lock, and it doesn't move. It's like a fixed ward on this lock, and so to accommodate, you've got this channel cut out of the key, which goes all the way up to here, where the circumferential cut goes around the edge of the key. And it means you can't turn the key until it's fully inserted. Then once it's fully inserted, obviously that tooth can get to that part, and it allows the key to turn so long as the other cuts are correct. There's another version of this as well, which I've seen. Only in Australia I've seen it, on gambling machines and that sort of thing, where it's this profile, but that front tooth is a free spinner, and you don't have the cut all the way up. You have the cut all the way up the key, but you don't have the ring around the key. So both of those two designs bring with it pretty unique tool making considerations. And here's another one I've got here, and this is a cam lock, obviously, because obviously you can't use your standard Abloy Classic pick. If the tooth there is around the outside, neither your pick nor your tensioner can go around the outside of there, so you have to design a different shape pick. Which is what I've done here. And the nice thing about that fixed ward disc at the front is, because it doesn't move, you can use it to tension the lock. And I'll say this is what I've done here. This pick design I've used for a very long time. It predates the Half Moon one that's so popular now. But I made the tensioner today myself for this, but the other bits and pieces, or the pick anyway, I cobbled together from what I had lying around. And the pick has to have the same abilities as normal, so problem 50 needs resolving. It has to be able to traverse from the front to the rear of the pack without disturbing set things already. Oh, there we go. So it's clicked into place now. It has false gates, by the way. You can see the locks pick there. So now what we're going to do is have a go at gutting it. So you can see this fixed disc. Uses a sprung piece of steel there, rather interestingly, rather than your traditional Abloy copper washer, which we all know to be very poor indeed from a destructive entry standpoint. So there's a stumpy little sidebar. Shell's not spectacular in any way, although it does have a threaded hole here for some reason. I thought someone had tried to drill for the sidebar, but it's beautifully threaded. It's not drilled, unless it's been drilled and then threaded for some reason, but it's not even in the place where the sidebar lives, so that doesn't really make sense. Anyway, this is the front disc. So that's your gated spinner. Then comes your fixed 5, well, it's not a fixed 5, but it's a fixed profile plate. It's the one with the tooth around the edge. You can see this extra fat tab around the top, which is where the tabs would normally rotate. Because it's huge, that means it's fixed. Can't move. And you've got 2 washers behind that. And then you've got normalish discs. They're all steel, so they're not normal from that point of view. But they do all have full skates, which I'll show you in a sec. That one's interesting. That one's Mastercard. So there's the end one with the profile on the right hand edge. These can come in different flavours. The profile disc at the end, that is. So this one isn't Mastercard. Or is it? I guess it sort of is Mastercard, but it isn't. So I guess if this was in the 5 position, the lock would still open. I mean, you've got 2 gates, so it can be flipped. And then you've got a reverse profile here. But interestingly, I'll have to look into this. If that is in the 5 position, I think the lock would still open. Bit of a flaw. Especially if your tool's struggling to rotate the rear disc. This is the Mastercard one. So obviously that helps picking a little bit. If, well, one of the discs at least is Mastercard. You've got another one here, it's Mastercard, so it's interesting. So let's see, out of discs you've got to move, you've got the front spinner, then the fixed profile, and you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 combo discs, 2 of which are Mastercard, and then the rear profile, which can probably be in 2 positions. Yeah, 2 combo discs are Mastercard. That rear one you could probably say is Mastercard. In fact, let's see if that will open in either position. I get the feeling it will. So there it is, fully rotated. I don't know if you can see that, but that's definitely at the sidebar gate. Now if I bring it back round to the 5 position, what do you know? It's at the gate again. Huh. That's quite interesting. What that means is, if you designed a tool that tensioned just from the fixed profile disc here, let's say your tool wasn't shaped to get onto that rear profile disc, well, it doesn't matter. You can just leave it in the 5 position without setting everything around to 0. Or you could do what I did and set everything around to 0 and then go in and pick the lock. But my point is, maybe your picking tip, or maybe you're struggling to get onto that last disc, so it can be any shape, so you can just ignore it basically. You can just leave it in the 5 position and then go on and pick the other discs and it'll still open the lock. Obviously the key would never do this. The key would never have a 5 position in the rear tip. So it's done so that, in fact, this shows it quite nicely, this key, because it's got profiles cut in both of the right places. So that is where it exists on this lock. But if you spin it round, obviously the profile is on the other side then. It's not in the right place here. It's a bit too close to the edge. But you get my point. You can just flip the profile disc and get a different profile shape from that disc by doing that. But very interesting weakness. The fact that that can be at 0 or 90 degrees. The tool for the free spinning, so the one that's got the tooth around the outside of the front but free spins, isn't fixed. The tool for that again has to be different. You're back to rear tension with that, because obviously you can't apply tension to the fixed disc because it's not fixed, it just spins. It's like the front spinner here, but it's got the tooth on the outside, so it's like your traditional Abloy profile front disc, just with the tooth in a strange place. And again, you can have a rear profile on that lock, so your tool has to cope with the free spinning front profile disc, and it also has to cope with whatever profile might be on the rear. So all of a sudden it becomes quite difficult now to design a tool, because you can't use a traditional semicircular pick because the tooth's on the outer edge, and yet you need to be able to tension the rear profile disc, which can be anything. I guess if you use different profiles, then different tools, but I'm not a fan of doing that. I've got a universal Abloy profile pick which picks every Abloy profile out there except for this strange safety deposit box or cam lock or whatever flavour it comes in, and it needs its own bespoke tool. Both of them do, but for your regular Abloy profile, I've got a universal tool which will fit any profile, and that's the sort of solution ideally I'd like for the free spinning outer toothed one. But until I get a nice sample of locks, it's not a lot I can do. Then if you can see the false gates on there, the discs do have false gates, and I think that's about it. I've rambled enough about this lock. It's a cool lock, I really like it. It means you have to get original with your pick making.